Welcome to Stories, Fables, Ghostly Tales, where the shadows hold secrets and every corner hides a question mark. I'm your guide, the Tale Teller, inviting you to step into a world that refuses to stay still. Imagine waking up in a place that feels part hospital, part shifting labyrinth, hallways that twist on a whim, and visitors who appear then vanish without warning. Our nameless observer documents each unsettling moment, pencil poised over an ever-changing reality. Tonight, we'll slip through the cracks of perception, peer behind doors meant to stay closed, and confront the curious company that drifts these halls. Figures bound by riddles, creatures drawn from the edge of a waking dream, and just you and me in the soft glow of this lantern. So dim the lights, settle into the hush, and prepare your senses. The Observer's Chronicle is about to begin. Let's peel open the very first page. These are the diary entries of the Hospital Observer. Day 1. I woke up to the soft hiss of the automatic bed adjusting beneath me, the crisp embrace of immaculate white sheets against my skin. My eyes fluttered open to a ceiling grid of harsh fluorescent lights, each bulb throbbing with a dull, unceasing hum, as though synchronizing with my heartbeat. I sat up, swung my legs over the side of the bed, and felt nothing. No IV in my arm, no catheter, no pulse monitor. Just my own steady breath and a persistent knot of confusion tightening in my chest. The door, seamless, unlabeled, responded to my touch by gliding inward on silent tracks. Beyond lay a hallway bathed in half-light, lit by a single swinging lamp that flickered in irregular bursts, casting liminal shadows that slithered across the walls. The corridor was unnaturally sterile. No handrails, no wall clocks, no signage. The paint was flawless and too bright, as if the builders had given up on hiding the fact that this place existed outside any ordinary blueprint. A scent drifted down the hall. Unlike the antiseptic tank of hospitals I remembered, this was earthy, rich loam after rain, mixed with the faintest tinge of decay. It unsettled me. I called out, voice oddly hollow, and heard only my own echo stretch away into the gloom. My reflection shimmered in the glass of the closed window, where a blank concrete wall stood just inches outside, bathed in an eerie twilight. I pressed my palm to the glass. It was cold but solid, no immediate danger. Yet I felt my heart hammering, awoken to the realization that I had no memory of why I was here or how I had arrived. I climbed back into bed and checked every inch of myself. Clothes intact, no bruises or cuts, and a calmness deep in my core that baffled me. Mentally, I felt clear. No fog, no headache, no confusion beyond this one glaring omission. Physically, I felt strong. Too strong, maybe, but it gave me a flicker of hope. If my body and mind still functioned, perhaps I could find my way out of here, or at least uncover some clues. Diary entry day 2. Morning came in slate grey light that seeped through a narrow window, barred with rusted iron. The room itself was different, walls painted a muted green, like the interior of a ship's hull at sea. Cold tile covered the floor, and in the corner stood an IV stand, but no bag, no tubing. Scraps of threadbare blanket lay draped over a broken chair. I felt rested. Too rested, actually. Like I'd slept a full night in a real bed after weeks of insomnia. Curious, I swung my legs off the rail. My feet touched the tile. It was cool, but I felt no shiver. I called out again. This time a distant scratching answered, low and deliberate, like claws against plaster. Suddenly, the door slid open, and a patient hobbled in, leaning on bizarrely twisted crutches that clicked on the floor. He wore a burlap sack over his head, 2 ragged eye holes cut crudely so he could see. His gait was uneven, as though each leg moved to its own rhythm. He shuffled to my bed, counted under his breath 1, 2, 3, then collapsed face first onto the tiles, unmoving. I rushed to him. My fingers brushed his arm. His body gave way to dust, fine grey powder that drifted into the light like ash from a long dead fire. I coughed, waving the grains away, and when the air cleared, nothing remained but a faint imprint on the floor. No pool of blood, no crumpled clothing, just the ghost of where he'd lay. Moments later, a nurse entered, if that's what she was. Her uniform shimmered. The fabric pattern shifted through shades of pale pink and lavender. She smiled with lips, red lips, I would say, eyes too bright.
Your vitals are excellent,
she said in a sing-song voice.
You're well on your way to recovery.
I asked what I was recovering from. She paused, head tilted, and replied,
From watching.
She placed a gloved hand on my shoulder, and I felt a pulse, a thrum of cold electricity shooting through me. Then she left, and the hallway beyond stilled into silence once more. By the time I dared peek out, the corridor walls had contracted, making the passage feel claustrophobic. The light overhead flickered again, and I stumbled back into the room, heart racing. I checked my reflection in a small mirror by the door, pale, alert, uninjured. Eerily calm. I don't know who designed this place or why, but I think I'm meant to bear witness. And yet, to what? Diary entry, day 3. Daylight, if you can call it that, spilled in through a window that overlooked a field of waist-high grasses swaying under an oppressive, overcast sky. The room was painted dusty rose, peeling at the corners, and an empty wheelchair sat by the bed. I felt no hunger, no thirst, only a vague curiosity about whether food or water even existed here. I unrolled the blanket and stood, noticing for the first time the footprints etched into the fading carpet. 2 small clawed prints alongside one larger, hoofed indent. They circled the bed, as though something had been pacing back and forth during the night. I ventured into the hallway. Doors flanked each side, some hanging askew. Behind one, I glimpsed a small child rocking silently in a high chair, its head lolling unnaturally. In another room, a pale man in a tattered suit scrawled frantic symbols on the wall in bright red chalk, writing,
Witness, observer, never sleep.
The symbols pulsated as though alive, then faded a moment later. I turned a corner and froze. A low, guttural growl rumbled from within a blackened doorway. The air around me grew thick, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I trembled, pressed my back against the wall. The growl stopped. Then came soft clicking, like claws tapping tile, moving away. I listened until footsteps faded. When I returned to my room, the woman in the wheelchair was there. She stared at me with eyes too large and dark, her lips quivering in a perpetual smile. She whispered,
You're safe to watch now.
And spun her chair toward the window. Outside, the pale hounds I saw earlier were closer, paws pressing against the glass like they wanted in. The glass crackled as though straining, but held. I closed the blinds and crawled into bed. My reflection on the darkened glass haunted me. For an instant, I saw horns curling from my brow, black tears sliding down my cheeks. Then, just me again, steady and alive. I pressed my palm to the glass, feeling its solidarity anchor me to reality. Diary entry, day 4. This morning I found the bed replaced by a recliner, its vinyl cracked and sticky. The walls were now slate grey, textured like stone. The window looked out onto a desert plain crackling with heat waves, and yet inside the air was cold. I leaned back and steepled my fingers, studying the horizon. A caravan of ragged figures moved far off, but as I watched, they blurred into motes of dust. I scrawled notes in the journal shoved under my pillow, descriptions of footprints, sketches of faces glimpsed in the corridors, fragments of whispered words. Between breath, never alone, you observe. My handwriting trembled in places, though my hands felt steady. A nurse arrived bearing a tray, a steaming bowl of broth and a glass of clear liquid. I took a sip. It tasted like tears mixed with salt and metal. My tears. I asked what I'd eaten. She said with a soft laugh,
Your courage.
Before I could respond, she disappeared into the wall, as if swallowed by it. Driven by a mix of dread and fascination, I explored again. The hallways spiraled, doorways led to rooms decorated in nightmares, a nursery with charred toys hanging from the ceiling, a kitchen where knives floated mid-air slicing invisible bread. In each room I found traces of previous patients, a discarded shoe, a blood-soaked bandage, pages torn from a diary with frantically scribbled warnings. Don't look away. He's watching. Don't blink. I returned to my room at dusk. The recliner was gone. In its place, a simple wooden chair facing a blank wall. I sat for hours, listening to the building sigh. The soft creak of pipes, the distant rumble of some vast engine. I tried to sleep, but my mind whirred with images. When I awoke, the chair was wet with dew, though no window stood open. Diary entry, Day 5. Night fell without warning. The window's view shifted to a starless void, a black abyss that seemed to swallow light. The walls turned inky black too, absorbing every sound until my own breath sounded deafening. I lay on a cot that appeared at the foot of the wooden chair, blanket thin and scratchy. I traced the latest footprints in the dust. These were delicate, bird-like talons, interspersed with tiny human baby prints. They led away through the door and into darkness. Summoning every ounce of my resolve, I followed, step by cautious step. The corridor stretched longer than I expected, bending back on itself in impossible loops. The air shimmered with heat. Then, just as I thought, I had reached a dead end. The floor gave way beneath me. I fell into darkness and landed, surprisingly softly, into a room of mirrors. My reflection multiplied, dozens of me, each staring with empty eyes. I advanced, and they stepped forward too, lipless mouths stretching wider until I heard dozens of soft moans. I pressed my palms against the nearest mirror. It rippled like water. I recoiled. When I dared look again, I was back in my cot. My journal lay open on my chest. The page was blank except for 2 words, scrawled in shaky handwriting not my own. Welcome home. Diary entry Day 6. I found the final blank page of this diary today. Outside the window, a violet dawn broke over a shattered cityscape. Skylines twisted into impossible angles, smoke rising in purple plumes. In the room, a simple stool faced the horizon. My journal and pen sat on it, waiting. I sat and wrote, until my hand cramped, cataloguing every echo, the flickering lights, the whispering doors, the parade of monsters and hollow-eyed figures. Each page grew heavy with names I'd given them. The burlap man, the watcher in the nursery, the choir of whisperers, the dancers in iron masks. I underlined each name twice. Finally, I wrote one last line in my own blood. Pain so sharp it grounded me entirely in my body. I refused to only watch. I set the pen down, closing the diary with deliberate calm. The door clicked open. A procession of patients entered, some lifelike, some barely flesh, all turning their heads to stare at me as they passed. They moved in silence, footsteps echoing in perfect rhythm. I stood, met their gaze, and smiled. No one spoke. No one stopped. They filed past and out the door. When the last figure left, the hallway was empty and the door locked behind them. I feel more alive than ever. I feel purpose. And though there may be no proper ending in this place of shifting walls and ceaseless visitors, I choose my own narrative somehow. The storyteller who will no longer be a mere observer. Diary entry day 7. I awoke to the distant clang of metal on metal, as if an enormous gate had swung shut in the farthest wing of this place. The sheets beneath me were ice cold, and when I sat up, I discovered the cot had been replaced by a wrought iron bench. Its bars slick with condensation, the walls pulsed with a slow, echoing heartbeat, each throb making the floorboards groan beneath my feet. I pulled myself up, muscles humming with unused strength, and felt an inexplicable thrill, like standing at the edge of something vast and unknowable. The window revealed a landscape I'd never seen before. Swirling mists rolling over sheer cliffs that dropped into black water. Jagged rocks jutted skyward like broken teeth, and the mist glowed intermittently with a pale blue lantern that bobbed in the distance, revealing silhouettes of winged creatures perched on the crags. As I watched, a great shadow swept across the water, stirring the lantern glow into a frenzy before vanishing again. A soft tapping drew my attention to the door. I opened it and found myself in a cathedral-like hall, arches soaring overhead and stained glass windows lining the walls. Though the glass depicted impossible scenes, trees with human eyes, rivers flowing uphill, children chasing their own reflections, pews stretched along the aisles. But instead of worshippers, each held a different patient. The burlap-sack man hunched in the front row, his chalk numbers scribbled across the seat. The hollow-eyed woman in her wheelchair, head bowed. The pale child rocking silently, all stared straight ahead at a dais at the far end. Compelled, I took a seat on a pew myself. The air was thick with chanting, a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate in my bones. On the dais stood a figure cloaked in midnight blue robes, face hidden by the hood. It raised a slender hand, and the chanting ceased instantly. My throat tightened. I felt every pulse point in my body slam against my skin. The figure spoke in a voice that echoed off every surface. "Observer, you have watched long enough." A door opened behind me, unleashing a flood of pale light. I turned and saw dozens of doors lining the walls, each marked with the patient's name I'd given in my journal. The burlap man's door swung wide. His voice echoed from within, counting upward. 18, 19. The hooded figure gestured.
Choose a door or remain.
My hands hovered over the nearest doorknob, marked "The Watcher in the Nursery." My heart thundered with the urge to flee, but my curiosity flared hotter. I gripped the cold iron. Before I could turn it, the hooded figure said softly, "Choose life over passive sight." The words hit me like a blow. I released the knob. The doors all slammed shut in a deafening roar. The pews vanished. The hall collapsed into darkness. I fell. No, jolted into a void. Then gravity reasserted itself and I landed on my back in my room. The bench was gone. The cot returned. My journal lay open on the floor, pages fluttering as though moved by the wind. I crawled to it and found a new line scrawled at the bottom of the last entry, ink in my own red. "You have chosen to remain. Tomorrow, you will truly see." My blood chilled, but a spark of exhilaration burned in my chest. I felt more alive than ever. Diary entry day 8. Dawn, or something like it, filtered through the window, painting the room in bruised purples and sickly greens. The air smelled of ozone and scorched paper. I sat up, reaching for my journal, and felt a subtle shift beneath me. The bed had become a shallow pool of water, rippling slowly with each breath I took. My reflection stared back, eyes dark and wide, pupils slit like a cat's. I stepped out and the water spread across the floor. yet never more than ankle deep. My footsteps left silver trails that vanished moments later. Beyond the door, the corridor had transformed into a flooded tunnel, its walls slick with algae, and only dim lanterns floating overhead to mark the way. I waded through, each step urging the water higher until it sloshed against my ribs, cold enough to steal my breath. But I felt no fear. At the end of the tunnel stood a grand arched gateway carved from bone-white stone. Its keystones bore my name, etched in trembling script. Vines of living shadow writhed around the edges. As I approached, a choir of whispers rose behind me. Fragmented memories of the patients I witnessed, their final moments, their terror, their resignation. I turned, but the lanterns revealed only my own silhouette, elongated and twisted. I laid my hand on the gateway's surface. It shuddered and opened onto a vast amphitheater, its seats filled with every creature and figure I'd encountered, but this time with a choir of worms. The pale hounds, and even the hooded figure now unmasked to reveal my own face staring back at me. A hush fell as I stepped forward. From the center rose a dais of drifting mist. On it floated a simple mirror framed in wrought iron. It beckoned. I reached out. My fingers brushed the glass, and the amphitheater erupted in a cacophony of shrieks and cheers as though they were celebrating my arrival. A heat bloomed in my chest, and a voice, mine and not mine, whispered in my ear,
Now you see.
I looked into the mirror. At first, it reflected the flooded hall, my soaked clothes, the amphitheater behind me. Then the surface rippled, revealing glimpses of another world, my home, empty rooms bathed in morning light, my desk, my chair, an open window with curtains fluttering in a gentle breeze. A photograph of the desk caught my eye. Me, smiling, surrounded by my friends. My real life untouched by this nightmare. My heart clenched with longing. The amphitheater grew silent, all eyes fixed on me. I hesitated, torn between two realities. The mirror's world shimmered with warmth, while the gathered witnesses leaned forward, their faces a mix of hope and dread. I raised a trembling hand, and the mirror cracked, spiderwebbing outward from my fingertip. The cracks glowed crimson, and the water beneath me boiled. The witnesses' cheers turned to wails. Light and shadow warred in the tunnel behind me. Then everything went still. I stand now at the threshold, hand on the broken glass. I can step through and reclaim my life, or remain and see what comes next. I have chosen to truly see. Diary entry, day 9. I woke up to silence so complete it roared in my ears. The cot was gone. In its place lay a mosaic of shattered mirror shards, each reflecting a sliver of this place's cruelty and wonder. I knelt, fingertips brushing the fragments. Every piece showed a different scene. The burlap sack man's final dust, the hollow-eyed woman's collapsed wheelchair, the pale hound tearing at invisible prey, even the hooded figure's empty robes fluttering on an unseen breeze. The window beyond these shards now looked out on a glassy expanse of water under a violet sky. No horizon, just infinite reflection. I stepped back as ripples formed without wind, concentric rings expanding until they lapped at the foot of the broken mirror. In that moment, an echo of all the voices I'd heard, chanting, whining, growling, coalesced into a single breathy whisper. I gathered a handful of mirror shards, sliding them into the pocket of my robe. In their reflections, I glimpsed a glowing key suspended in the void outside. My heart pounded. I knew instinctively this key was what I needed to step through the mirror's promise of home. The hallway stretched before me, walls now pale ochre, etched with ruined-like symbols that pulsed with each beat of my heart. The floor was carpeted in midnight blue veins, alive and curling around my ankles. As I walked, every step felt guided, as though the building itself wanted me to reach its heart. At the end of the hall, a door of burnished bronze stood between two columns, carved into the shape of watching angels, whose faces were my own reflected fear. On the door's surface, the keyhole glowed faintly. I withdrew the shard that held the key's image, its reflection shifting until the glowing key appeared pressed into the glass. The door's glow intensified, and the heavy metal swung open without a sound. Inside was a chamber lit by floating lanterns that drifted like jellyfish in water. At its center, on a pedestal of twisting roots, lay a single ancient-looking key forged from black iron and etched with the same runes on the hallway walls. I sensed this was the key to break the final barrier. The moment my fingers closed around it, the floor gave way. I fell through darkness and landed this time in my own bedroom. Morning sunlight poured across my blankets, and the familiar scent of coffee drifted from the kitchen. My heart seized with relief and disorientation. I sat up. The black iron key lay in my palm, cold and heavy, a weight of memory I couldn't yet bear. My journal lay on my nightstand, its pages blank once more, and my body felt real. Aching in my shoulders from sleeping wrong, a dull hunger in my stomach, and outside, birds sang. But in the next instant, the room flickered. The walls peeled away like old wallpaper, revealing the pale ochre ruins beneath. The ceiling stretched upward into cathedral arches. The window grew tall and narrow, and glassy water pressing in. I realized then, I am both here and there. The choice I made to truly see binds me to both worlds. I clutched the black key, knowing its purpose not to escape, but to unlock the boundary between witness and participant. Tonight I will return to that chamber and decide what comes next. To free the others trapped here, or to claim this realm as my own dominion. For now, I write this from my bedroom, and from the heart of the shifting hospital, knowing each word draws me further into the story I no longer merely observe but shape. Diary entry, day 10. I write this by the dim glow of a lantern that appeared the moment I set pen to paper. The room is the same shifting chamber I've known. White walls that breathe, a single barred window looking out to the sky that I cannot name. But everything I believed has been upended. This morning the walls peeled away to reveal a great cathedral of mirrors, and in each pane I saw fragments of my life, a laughing childhood, a grief-stricken hospital room, the very bed I first awoke in. Then the mirrors shattered, and behind me stood the hooded figure, my own reflection draped in midnight robes. The figure spoke without moving its lips. You are both the watcher and the watched. In that moment I understood. Every patient I observed, every monster I catalogued, every shifting room, they were all facets of me. This hospital wasn't a place I'd wandered into. It was my own mind, fractured by trauma and tethered to life by a tenuous thread. Each creature was a memory, each corridor a coping mechanism, each nurse a reminder that I clung to hope. I dropped to my knees. I am the burlap man counting regrets, the hollow-eyed woman clutching loss, the choir of worms feasting on my shame, the pale hound hunting my doubts. And I, observer, I sought to remain untouched, safe in my role as chronicler. But there is no safe vantage point when your own soul is at stake. The hooded reflection extended a hand. I placed my lantern on the cold floor, rose and touched his palm. Instantly, warmth flooded through me, and the lantern's light flared until the shadows retreated. The mirrors reassembled into one, a great-looking glass framed with carved runes spelling two words in my own handwriting. Wake up. With a pounding heart, I closed my eyes. I felt the walls dissolve, the air thin, and then release. I woke up in a real hospital bed, IV in arm, monitors beeping steadily, white paned walls unchanging. My sister knelt beside me, tears glistening. The doctor smiled. He's back with us. I tried to speak, but all that came was a whisper. I'm sorry. They told me I'd been in a coma for weeks after a car crash. My fractured memories, these diary pages, were the mind's struggle to reconcile life and death. The creatures, the corridors, the endless watch. I had been navigating the brink, observing every fragment to hold on. I pressed a hand to my journal, closed it, and felt its cover warm as though alive. Outside, sunlight warmed my face. No more shifting rooms, no more monsters, but I carry their lessons in my bones. That to heal, one must face every reflection, every fear, and step through the glass. I will keep writing, this time in the real world, because stories saved me, and now I truly see. And so our unnamed observer closes their journal, having wandered through corridors that shift with every heartbeat, and catalogued visitors that blur the line between nightmare and memory. From the moment they first awoke without a clue to the revelation that reality itself can be rewritten with a single choice, their journey reminds us that every story, even the darkest, begins with the courage to keep watching and to keep writing. And it was in that writing that kept our observer alive. Thank you for joining me on this descent into the Observer's Chronicle. If you'd like to explore more ghostly tales or revisit any corridor of this one, head over to Stories Fables ghostlytales.com, where you'll find episode notes, links to my email, which is storiesfablesghostlytales@gmail.com, and a means to listen to any other of the episodes I've already recorded, all 900 plus of them. If you would like to support the podcast and unlock early episodes, higher quality audio, and my eternal thanks, please consider becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/SFGT. Your generosity keeps the lantern lit and allows me, the tale-teller, to bring more strange worlds to your lovely ears. A special thank you to our extraordinary patrons, whose names I'll read in just a moment. Your belief in the uncanny, and me, fuels every step down these echoing halls. And to all of you listening, thank you. Until next time, keep your notebooks closed, your minds open, and remember, every shadow has its story. Now on to my first Patreon supporter, my Ode Night Tea Titan, Matto Star. Matto, your steadfast support has been like that unexpected mirror in the shifting corridors, revealing truth just when they're needed most. Your belief in these tales has fueled every whispered step down haunted hallways and every heartbeat that trembled at the turning of a page. Whether you're brewing tea under a velvet sky or scribbling notes by lamplight, know that your generosity keeps the story alive, guiding us all closer to the next mystery. From the bottom of this storyteller's ink-stained heart, thank you for staying by my side through the labyrinth of reflection, faced with their own hidden monsters, and most importantly, learn that even in the darkness, a single choice can light the way. Here's to you, Matto, Tea Titan of the Night, Guardian of Tea, and Champion of Ghostly Tales. May your cup always brim with courage, and may the shadows you stir reveal infinite stories yet to be told. Cheers, you legend. And now I want to thank my white tea warlords, the fearless Lesosaurus Rex. Your dedication to conquering both barbells and shadows inspires us all, just as our observer summons strength to face shifting corridors and impossible creatures. Your tenacity at the gym, lifting more than just weights, reminds us that true power comes from within. Thank you for flexing your support and helping this podcast stay as unbreakable as your deadlift. Thank you so much, Lesosaurus, and have a wonderful week. And my next white tea warlord, Maya, the Queen of Cats. Your fondness for feline companions mirrors the observer's own need for comfort amid the uncanny uncertainty. As our journal's pen trembled in dark hallways, your warmth for whiskers and purrs brings a soft light to the creaking corridors of every tale. Thank you for curling up with us late into the night and for your perfect patronage that keeps these ghostly stories alive. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week as well. And my final white tea warlord, a mystical bow to Sangeetha Sagar. Sangeetha, your gift of seeing beyond the veil, echoes the final revelation of the Observer's Chronicle that every door we open reveals a part of ourselves. Your clairvoyant encouragement has guided this podcast through every twist, turn, and shattered mirror. Thank you for gazing into the unknown with us, and for illuminating paths we never knew we'd choose. Thank you so much, mate. Have a great week. And to my Earl Grey Enforcer tiers and all tiers below, I am lucky to have Chad Warren, Divided by Zero, Juicebox Andy, Just Heather, Paige Kramer, Peter Raffaelli, Rhonda Ray, Seductive Smiles, Jane Gumnick, and Michael Krupp. Thank you so much for your support. And until our next moonlit venture, this is the Tale Teller. Keep your lanterns lit and your curiosity alive. See you soon.
Sheets, silence too clean, no pain in my chest, no trace of the scene. Walls breathe slow, lights flicker above. The ceiling hums questions I'm frightened of. A door with no handle, it opens on thought. A hallway too quiet with secrets I caught. A figure walks backward, head full of string. Whispers my name, but I don't know a thing. I write it down so I don't whine. Pen to page like stitches to mine. And in every room a part of me lives. In every eye a memory forgives. This is the chronicle carved into dark, a map of my mind with pieces marked. The watchers, the beasts, the rooms that reshape. I see them, I name them, I never escape. But I feel the page warm when I choose to stay. I'm the one who watches and I will not look away. Wheelchairs that roll, no one inside, a child counting down with eyes open wide. A nurse in kaleidoscope robe says recover, but every reflection is just another cover. I trace their steps through the waxy floor. Ink on my fingers, ash on the door. A mirror once cracked now shows me a face, and behind it a voice I've tried to erase. I write, thank you legends, you light up the night. Thank you supporters, you lift us so high. Mato stall as a sword. with love and